All right, now we're back for some waterfalls and some additional mountains. So what I'm gonna do is I dried my brush off. I have this ability with a frayed brush to go in with some dry brush strokes. Now, as we can see right here, I have a split between my mountain. This is one side of my mountain. I am gonna end up making a smaller side to the mountain, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start right at the top. If you can see, I'm gonna get a little bit closer. Move this over just a tad, zoom in on it. Okay, and what I'm trying to do is be very considerate to how much paint I'm using. I also want to create like a nice shape. I want to go just straight down the middle. I want some ridges. I want some float to my waterfall. Okay, now up at the top, it's a little bit more bustly. The stream is thicker, so it's not as white. There's a lot of little lines in there, so you can see with the right amount of paint on my brush, I am capable of adding those features. Now, as I make it down, I have a looser stroke in here. So I'm just gonna move this again so I have more mobility. And what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna, whoop, that was a little too much. I can fix it. But I wanna clear my brush and just kind of go back in and add some very wispy lines. Okay, now that I need to camouflage that one line in there because it's just too much, I can go back in very subtly and overlap some small detail work. I'm not going to try to make a giant line again because that'll just make it an eyesore, but you can see my little accents take away that immediate notice of line in there. So now that I have that camouflaged a bit, I'm happy with it flowing. I'm gonna just leave this opening at the bottom for the crashing of the waterfall. So what I just did was I accented a little bit. I went in like this, and it's very fine strokes. Can barely even see them, but it just sits at the bottom. Now, this style of painting, and naturally what you want to do is you want to paint in the water because that's in your mind what you do. With water, you paint it blue. But in this image, you can see everything is balanced compositionally through white. So the water is actually more white. You can see my waterfall is a little bit heavier than what this one appears to be in the book. But I'm going to keep things very simple in here, and I'm just going to accent with very thin amount of paint on my brush, just to highlight that this is an area of space and that it is water in here. So I'm just, with a very loose and light amount of paint on my brush, I'm just gonna accent it with just a little bit in there. Okay, now I'm gonna make the other side of my mountain. Okay, add a little bit of brown to my purple, maybe add a little bit of green in there. Okay, and I'm gonna make just a little ledge kind of come off like that. Rock formation off to the side of the mountain. Now I'm gonna take the paint off my brush again. And because this is still wet, I can pull from that side and just use that same color to be able to accent. Now, because this mountain right here is closer than this one, I actually wanna use some perspective when I paint, and I want to paint less details in this side of things because it's further away than this area is. So I'm just going to add one or two little strokes in there, less detail, less ability. I don't want to overdo it right now because it's still really wet, but you can see that was enough for me. The last couple things of this worksheet and tutorial shell, there's some gazebos. So all of this fine tuning and detail work you use with your pointed brush. I'm gonna make just a little hut over here at the bottom. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna go for the gazebo. I'm gonna make it, I'm gonna add in maybe a bridge right here, and then there's gonna be a nice little area for somebody to go sit at their gazebo. So let's go for the gazebo. It's not an easy subject to paint, but we're gonna try. I clear my brush off. It's dry. I add a little bit of paint to it. I'm gonna refrain from using just straight up black because I feel like that is just one of the colors that really tend to give me some challenge. It's hard to add value, meaning dark and light sense to black. So I'm just gonna go in with this, and you can see this is right where I am. I'm gonna create one line, and I have just the right amount of paint on here. 3 and 4 strokes. So you can see if I get a little closer, and I just slide this in, position it to make it easy on your eye. This is what we're looking at. There's my 4 strokes for my gazebo shape along the bottom edge. Now from here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it geometric, and I'm going to make the sides straight. Okay, and then at the very bottom, although I can't see it in this picture, I do, because I have some knowledge on perspective and how to draw three-dimensional shapes, I would want to mirror this top line with this bottom line. So I'm going to give myself a little bit of an edge, but I don't want to filter in so much because, like in here, I can camouflage it with some rocks. So instead of painting in all of those hard edges and lines, I'm going to leave it just like that is, pretty open. Now off of it, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a ledge and an addition so that there's an ability to stand a platform on here. I added one additional side because I messed it up with perspective, but it happens. And now off of it, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make these nice little tiny itty bitty lines. And they're going to go in almost a round shape, quality like that. The reason is that's my ledge to my gazebo. I need to make them a little bit longer. So that I have an ability to hang off this edge. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just make a very fine line go around like that. And you can see that's to hold you in. A little gated safety area in the gazebo. Now I'm going to create some posts and some columns. I'm going to make some dots, it looks like. So I'm just going to use my brush and create some round areas in here, 1, 2, 3, and 4, for me to make some posts. So again, I don't have a lot of paint on my brush, and I feel comfortable right now because I'm not overdoing it. And in order to be able to achieve this, I do have very minimal amounts of paint on here, but you can see I have that connection. 3 and 4 lines right in there. Now off of this, I have a nice big roof that comes to a point. So you can see I'm just shaking right now. I don't know why, but. And the roof kind of comes off to a point, and then we just round it out like that. There's a little bit of an icon up at the top. Just decorative element. I'm going to paint that in, and a second shape in there. I might accent with a little bit of black and a little bit so I can create a little bit more detail. And then what I can do is create some tiles. And shingles within the roof up here. Okay, now you can see I kind of messed it up on the one side a little bit, but what I can actually do is I can wait for that to dry, and then I can add just a little bit of a wash over it so that I can still see some of the details, but then it's not so noticeable that I made a mistake. You can also see in the tutorial, in the packet, there's these round accents along the bottom edge so that it makes it look more 3D. Okay, and there's that. If you wanted to make a boat, there's little boats in here. This could just be in between. Last thing, I have a little tiny boat, so I'm making a point with my brush. I apply just a very small amount in there. I start with a point for the point of my boat. create an outline. Now these little boats have like overhanging roofs so that it creates like a little area and shade. Okay, the side of the boat needs to be painted in, so we're just painting that along the edge like that. And I have this nice little banana boat. I can add a little guy in here with a stick. I'm gonna just add the stick right now so that I allow the rest of it to dry. Like he's oaring through. And there's his little stick into the water. Now that that area is a little bit more dry, I can take just a little bit of water to it. Accent with a different color for my overhang. So a little bit of black goes a very long way. So I added a very marginal amount, and that's what I get so that I can accent with a different color. Inside the boat, maybe I have a little step, some details so that it looks like I'm inside the boat like that. Okay, now this does take a while. It does. It's a lot of detail. It's a lot of strokes. It's a lot of time to consider and really create ultimate rock formation studies. I do like this assignment because, like I said before, I've done a lot of landscapes in my time, so naturally I can be more loose about it. It's a lot more free-flowing, and I can do things simply. That's the key, though. You don't want to add a bunch of koi fish all over this because it's going to overdo it. So, you know, there's lots of little subjects in there. Try out some trees, try out some houses, try out, you know, a little pier, a little ledge, some steps, whatever you want, but just try. And I want to see you try on this assignment. All right, so, you know, if you need any help, reach out. I can do a live video Google Meet with you if you'd like to too, because I know this is not easy to do on your own, but hang in there and good luck.